Hi, my name is Natalie Petru and I head up the PR and marketing for Hopster. Now, Hopster is an award-winning educational entertainment app that helps preschoolers learn through TV shows, books, songs and games. Now, all of our content has been hand-selected by experts, so it's in line with the Early Years National Curriculum. And all of our content is diverse, inclusive and gender-neutral in tone. And sometimes trying to find that content that shares those values can be quite tricky, which inspired us to do a bit of research. In 2019, we partnered with Dubbit to research how inclusive and representative the top 50 preschool shows were. We selected shows from free-to-air channels, subscription channels, video-on-demand services like Netflix and Amazon, and streaming sites like YouTube. We titled the report, "Is Kids TV Making Your Child Prejudice?" You can find the report at www.hopster.tv. The results were alarming. Overall, we found the top preschool shows do not represent our society fairly and reflect poor stereotypes. We found that ethnic minorities were underrepresented. Only 12% had a BAME lead. Around 50% of BAME characters appeared only in the background. Just 3 out of the 5 shows analysed had a BAME character as a consistent lead. These were Apple Treehouse, Go Jetters, Blaze and the Monster Machines. The working class was severely underrepresented, appearing in just 9% of episodes, while being 50% of the actual population. We found they were portrayed as unintelligent, and again, none as the lead. Palaces, castles, mansions and privileged families are being presented through preschool content as the norm. There was little evidence of LGBT representation in any shows, and none featured same-sex parent families. Disability representation was minimal. 16% featured a disabled character, but there were no lead characters with a disability, despite 22% of the UK population having impairments or disabilities. In some cases, characters with disabilities were portrayed as evil or threatening. For example, in Dino Trucks, a villain is shown to have Tourette's syndrome and muscle spasms. 41% of episodes featured gender stereotyping. This included female characters being undermined by males or males presented as knowledge bearers. Male characters were often found to be given the more powerful roles, as seen in Engie Benji, Paw Patrol and Octonauts. A considerable amount of objectification was also noted in 16% of episodes, such as male characters having exaggerated muscles or stereotyping female femininity through long, thick hair and oversized eyes. Many additional negative stereotypes were also portrayed, from incapable single mothers in Fireman Sam to overweight people portrayed as greedy or lazy in the Smurfs, and those wearing glasses were considered nerds, as seen in Alvin and the Chipmunks. Tokenism was also a theme, as BAME and disabled characters appeared in the background and played no central or meaningful role. Streaming and subscription services, including Netflix and Amazon, were found to be more likely to stream negative cultural, social or gender stereotypes than free-to-air channels. Popular YouTube series Webs and Tiaras was the lowest scoring show of those included in the study. CBeebies has 3 of the top 5 inclusive and representative shows, with high scoring programmes across most categories. We unveiled the report to both the trade media and the consumer media, and we did this to inspire the kids' TV industry to make some much needed changes. With our hard-hitting headline, "Is Kids TV Making Your Child Prejudice?" it also started a conversation, and ultimately we also wanted to get parents to really start taking interest in what their children are watching. Children are not born prejudice, it is learned behaviour. We can and we should do more.
Hi, my name is Ellen and I head up the content team at Hopster. And so I'm going to talk through what we do to be inclusive in our acquisition and our original content commissioning. So most of our content is acquired and our mission has always been to be as inclusive as possible. And so when we're looking for shows and books, we are looking for diversity and we're looking for positive and accurate representations of our society.
Fairy godmother?
Fairy god person, if you please.
This can be hard to find sometimes, though. We come across some amazing shows that meet our criteria in some ways. So it may be educational, or it may teach positive soft skills, but it maybe lacks diversity or is stereotyped in a way that contributes towards creating unconscious biases. And so an example of this that I see quite often is gender stereotyping. We often see boys portrayed as the problem solvers and the heroes, and girls in the episode might be doing something more trivial or just being more reliant on other characters. And ultimately that is quite harmful to the kids who are watching, and from such a young age it's suggesting what their gender roles are going to be. And so what I try to do in these scenarios is offer my feedback on why the content isn't working for us. I think it's important to point out what the issues are, and so in this instance, for example, that there are harmful stereotypes, or that there's lacking diversity. I think that is useful information to share, and hopefully for the next production that would be taken into account. So as inclusive as we want to be, in my 5.5 years at Hopstad, it has been really tricky at times to find shows that represent the diversity in our society. An example of this is Pride. A couple of years ago we tried to make that happen, but we couldn't find enough content, and so we couldn't. So last year we decided that we were going to make our own. So we partnered with an LGBT charity called Diversity Role Models, and worked with an LGBT writer and voice cast. And what we ended up with were some really lovely short stories about family and the different shapes and sizes that they come in. And I'm happy we were able to make that happen. We have another show called 2 Minute Tales, and in this show you'll see different races, classes, abilities and disabilities, family structures, and storylines that challenge stereotypes. There's nothing special about the way these are portrayed, and in the 2 Minute Tales world, this is just normal. This is just how it is. So based on my experience, my tips would be to start off by educating yourself. So a good start is reading the report that we've commissioned and making yourself aware of the data, and just to do what you can to educate yourself on representation when starting a new project. Secondly, hiring diversely. So from the writers to the animators to the voice talent, the more diversity you have in a project, the more interesting it'll be, the more perspectives you will have, and just, there's so many advantages to doing this. If you're asked for feedback on a project and you feel that it is lacking diversity, point it out, let them know. And finally, everyone does this, but they don't realize. So reading up on unconscious bias and understanding how our minds work and how we make these decisions without even realizing it. I went to a talk last year at CMC on unconscious bias, and it was so good. So I definitely recommend that as well. And so that's everything. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching.